Monday, the 9th of September, 2024, will forever be a day long remembered, at least according to yours truly talking to you guys right now, as the day that Hollyoaks, as we know it, died. Just roll the titles. Richard the Film Geek here, and I'm here to give you guys another mini-rant, albeit a rather genuinely depressed, deflated and disappointed one, on a television show that I feel hasn't just lost its way significantly these last couple of years especially, but is actively committing before our very eyes what I would personally like to call TSOS, which stands for Televisual Soap Opera Suicide, where it actively wants to die and thus actively tries anything and everything in its power to die, so that way it would prove obviously difficult for the producers of said show to constantly pull it back from the brink, squeeze it out to dry, and force it to continue going down the sad and miserable decline/trajectory it's going down. With that being said, what is the show I'm going to be talking about in this video? One word: Hollyoaks. As always, before I start, I just want to preface that the reason why I've decided to talk about Hollyoaks in this video is really because I just wanted to get out of my chest what I've been feeling for a while now about how badly this show has essentially fucked itself over, especially with this recent nonsensical time jump it's just done, which I am going to get into later on in the video. And it's kind of safe to say it may have just effectively killed all guilty pleasure enjoyment I once had of the show dead on its feet, and that this video is not intended in any way to speak ill of, badmouth, and or disrespect any of the actors and the crew members who I'm certainly sure work tirelessly on the show and have such a reasonably fun time making it. And hey, if you're someone who is still a fan of the show, that's perfectly fine, and your opinion is obviously well respected, as long as you at least hear out what I have to say. Plus, whatever I have to say about the show in this video really does genuinely hurt to the core, so obviously I'm not taking any pleasure in this whatsoever, in case you're asking. For those of you not already in the know, Hollyoaks is part of the Mount Rushmore of best known and most popular television soap operas in Britain, alongside Emmerdale, originally titled Emmerdale Farm, EastEnders, and the big daddy of them all, Coronation Street. It originally aired on a half-hour weekday tea time slot on Channel 4 on the 23rd of October 1995, which obviously means this time next year will be its 30th anniversary, has won several awards, including only 2 for Best British Soap. It is set in a Cheshire village called, well, Hollyoaks. And basically, like with most other soap operas these days, there's just no real coherent story or premise to be found in this thing. Instead, it's just random stuff happening for no particularly good rhyme or reason whatsoever, other than perhaps to appeal to its younger demographic, consisting of teenagers and young adults in the most desperate, creatively bankrupt, and cynical way possible. Heavy-handedness of themes such as gay sex, racism, homophobia, teenage pregnancies, love triangles, murder, suicide, mental health, alcoholism, drug addiction, domestic violence, homelessness, and cancer that ultimately end up forgotten all of a sudden and or lead up to nowhere in a way that insults audiences' intelligence profoundly, as well as cheaper than cheap production values as if it's made on a 50p budget, laughably toothless writing that makes even George Lucas's writing of the prequels, especially for Attack of the Clones, feel like Chaucer in comparison. And acting that is just so ridiculous, so over the top, so atrocious, and so insultingly amateurish, it's not even funny. With all that being said, here's what I have to say about Hollyoaks. To say that this show has become such a miserable and depressing shadow of its former self during the last couple of years, and is in such a sad and sorry existential state at the moment in terms of ratings, viewer interest, and steeply declining popularity is a massive understatement. The saddest thing about me saying this, though, is that of the big four television soaps I've just mentioned, Hollyoaks is the one that I remember remotely enjoying the most when I was growing up. Yes, it's cheaply made. Yes, the writing is abysmal. Yes, the storylines are beyond messy and stupid. And yes, the acting is so appallingly bad that even preschoolers can do a far better acting job. But there was something about this show that appealed to me for a reason I'm really unable to pin down, at least on a similar guilty pleasure level as, say, the Jeremy Kyle show. Watching the show now, you almost get a sense that, like with most shows these days that go on for too long, such as The Simpsons and Family Guy, Hollyoaks has run out of steam really quickly, that the writers have completely run stale and dry of ideas, and that Channel 4 themselves no longer have a clue anymore what to do with the show, and actually don't really seem to have learned their lesson from what happened to Brookside back in 2003. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, Brookside was an extremely popular television soap for Channel 4 throughout the 1980s and 90s that achieved critical acclaim as well as record numbers of viewers each and every week, and was basically the British equivalent to Home and Away or even Neighbours in terms of mainstream popularity and cult following, only to then be officially cancelled on the 4th of November 2003 due to a terminal decline in viewer interest, behind the scenes shenanigans, and consistently poor ratings. Sound familiar? Which actually perfectly leads me to the show's biggest problem: the writing. The writing of this show is just scraping the very bottom of the barrel, piss poor, awful. What I mean is, from the initial setup of each storyline, you instantly know which set of characters is going to be involved, which set of characters is going to be killed off and or written out, who is going to romantically hook up with who, what motions and or emotional struggles these characters are going to have to go through, what's going to happen to them, when it's going to happen to them. It is just ridiculous. Not to even mention the fact that you are literally given zero reason to care or be emotionally invested in these characters beyond eye candy or surface level. And one has to feel especially bad for half of this huge cast, past and present, including Nick Pickard, Ashley Taylor Dawson, Jessica Fox, Jimmy McKenna, Kieran Richardson, James Sutton, Anna Passy, Nadine Mulkerin, Mandip Gill, Tosin Cole, Steph Waring, Will Mellor, Gary Lucy, Ellis Hollins, Ruby O'Donnell, Neem Blackshaw, Kirsty Lee Porter, Jennifer Metcalf, Matt Littler, Emmett J. Scanlon, Nikki Sanderson, Annie Wallace, Ayla May Malik Demirkan, Isabel Smith, etc., who are clearly legitimately exceptionally talented and who all clearly have the potential, once they inevitably leave the show, to do new and better things with their careers and are just clearly giving their all and or are trying their very best with this horribly lazy and subpar material they are given, which is so obviously beneath them and gives them little to nothing to work with. The other half of this cast, however, to put it rather bluntly, is just a bunch of over-pretentious, talentless models who want to be famous, take their clothes off, mug and or gurn for the cameras, and seem to delude themselves into believing that an appearance on the show is like an automatic audition tape for an acting job in Hollywood. As much as I am perfectly willing to at least commend the show for being progressive, being tirelessly supportive of the LGBTQ community, its ability to tackle certain social issues as sensitively as it can, it's making recent British soap history, especially in a couple of key areas, i.e. the very first depiction of a non-binary autistic character in the form of Tylan Grant as Phoenix Hathaway, and of course the very first casting of an actual trans actress in the form of Annie Wallace as Sally St. Clair, and even getting Doctor Who legend Graham Harper to direct a bunch of episodes, it is really tough to deny how drastically downhill and rock bottom Hollyoaks' public reputation has become within the last couple of years, especially when you take into account the recent unnecessary changes they've made to the quality of the show, such as dramatically cutting down the number of cast members due to a reported backstage crisis, axing the show full stop from its weekday tea time slot on Channel 4, yet not from its later time slot on E4 due to terminally declining ratings, and instead becoming the UK's very first exclusive digital-based soap by moving full episodes onto YouTube a full week after each original broadcast, and even more recently cutting back the number of episodes from 5 a week, Monday to Friday, to just 3 a week, Monday to Wednesday. In fact, it's almost as if Dolores Umbridge learned from her mistakes, broke out of Azkaban, infiltrated the Hollyoaks set, and has basically effectively taken over the production of the show, as well as run it even further into the ground.
I will have order!
And crikey, I honestly don't really have that much more else to say about Hollyoaks than I already have, because again, I just feel depressed, deflated, disappointed, and also frustrated and tired of actively trying to be angry with the show or trying to defend it, even if I wanted to. But here's the only best way I can finish summarising my overall thoughts on this show. The way it looks now is just beyond cheap and ugly. The direction is non-existent. The writing especially is extraordinarily horrid. A large majority of the acting is just painful to watch. The storylines are getting more and more ridiculous, insane, nonsensical and stupid by the day. The continuity is just shot up to smithereens. The grit and realism it once had is completely gone. You can clearly tell that Channel 4 no longer give a single shit about the show, and that half of the actors involved no longer have the fun, the passion, and the enthusiasm to continue with the show in its current state, and actually don't want to even be there anymore. And the recent time jump, in which the action now apparently takes place in the latter half of 2025 as opposed to real time, which by the way you cannot possibly see any of the other three soaps doing, especially EastEnders and Corey, does nothing but completely solidify and cement everything that's gone tragically wrong with this show these last few years, and may just be the final nail in the coffin of what was once a great show. And in other words, may just be the moment that Hollyoaks, as we know it, has officially jumped the shark. If I were to give this show a rating, it would be a generous 3 out of 10. But in all honesty, the way the show is going at this point, I really don't see it continuing beyond its 30th anniversary year in 2025, and it really sucks for me to say this, but that's the sad reality of the situation we're dealt. And that's really all I've got left to say about the current state of Hollyoaks. So I really hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say on the subject. Plus, to finally end this video on a much more positive note, I sincerely want to thank you guys from the very bottom of my heart for supporting me, and particularly helping this channel to get to just over 30 subscribers so far, at least by the time I'm recording this video. Since I technically ended my original channel back in April, I was initially worried at first that I was somehow making a mistake and or taking too much of a risk by starting this channel. But as it seems to have turned out, this gamble has paid off handsomely and been well worth the risk. So, once again, this achievement means such a lot to me. It clearly shows that you guys seem to be thoroughly enjoying my content, and I really cannot thank you guys enough for what is really looking to be quite the journey on this platform. Don't forget to do the following few things as always. Leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on Hollyoaks and its current messy state. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel as always. Click on the little bell where you can get all of the notifications and updates from my channel via email, as well as follow me on Facebook, Instagram and Letterboxd if you haven't already. Do take care, amigos, and adios.